to, oh, that's just that camera. Yeah, it's just that camera. Welcome to Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz on this glorious Tuesday, where we are doing our What's Wrong with the Bible series. What is wrong with the Bible series? That's what we're doing. I am the owner of Smoking Phoenix Cigars, so got to have one of these. Burka Grand Reserve, dipped in Louis 13th. What we shall have today with our coffee. Yes, indeed. Today, what's wrong with the Bible? We are continuing in Leviticus. Leviticus 18 and 19. We're going to talk about a little bit about sex. We're going to talk a little bit about having sex with your incest and all the other sexual rules, as well as a couple of other rules that this deity doesn't want you participating in. It's going to have one thing that he's going to miss, though. It's going to be like quite interesting. The fact that he's going to miss something. Maybe a piece of chocolate before I have my cigar. But it promises to be a very interesting day of reading Leviticus. Leviticus 17. No, it's not 17. We're reading Leviticus 18 and 19 today. So we can see what's wrong with it. They told us that we need to come and read the Bible, so we decided we're going to read this here Bible to a certain extent. If you're finding me for the first time and you're like, oh, rubbish, you're already in Leviticus. What happened to Genesis and Exodus? Well, if you go to my YouTube channel by the same name, and go into the playlist, you can easily find the rest of my videos. You can find the playlist for Genesis and the playlist for Exodus, and catch on up to Leviticus. Grand Rising, Debbie, out of Texas. Got a Texas girl here. Now today I do have a hard stop at 12. I actually have to leave the house and go to a meeting. And then after that, I will be back. I might, depend on if we missed out on anything or what's going on, I might come back on if I get back, when I get back. And we have an extra large today. But today we're going to be reading Leviticus. I try to give people about 5 minutes to get on, and then we get started. Yeah, so while we're waiting, I just want to take this moment to thank everyone who shares this video, who shares the channel. It is only through your sharing that we have grown in the ways that we have. I greatly appreciate all of you for your sharing of these videos. And those who donate to the channels, whether through gifts on TikTok or financially on YouTube or in stars on Facebook, I greatly appreciate that. But more importantly, I appreciate your commentary and your sharing. So please feel free to comment as we go through and read Leviticus 18 and 19 today. We have 2 hours before I have to go and handle some business, and then we'll be back. Is everybody doing well today? What are you talking about, Debbie? It's cool that I can do what? Whatever do you mean? Crikey. I have no idea what you're talking about there, Debbie. You know, I did this one time, and the guy said, oh, never knew that you were from there. I'm like, yeah, I'm not. All right. So we're going to get started with Exodus 18. Some interesting points that we're going to have here. I know we've been talking about a lot about how all the animal sacrifices, thank you. I rather like this hat myself, But we've been talking about all the animal sacrifices that this Bible talks about. Even as far as someone the other day, he wrote a comment and he said that God said that he does not want, that he told his forefathers not to give sacrifices. And I said to the gentleman, have you not went and read Leviticus? Leviticus is filled with your deity commanding sacrifices. And so those are the things that we went over last week. For those who are finding us for the first time, yes, on Tuesday, we do What's Wrong with the Bible. We do not know how many books we're going to go through, but we'll see how many books we go through. Skybox, Grand Rising, sir. Grand Rising. Some of my regulars are beginning to attend. So let's start. Let's start with 18. The most intriguing chapter here. 18 is created so much political uprising in America and other places of the world. It's a very interesting chapter. Let's get started. Chapter 18. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and say to them, I am the Lord your God. You must not do as they do in Egypt, where you used to live, and you must not do as they do in the land of Canaan, where I'm bringing you. Do not follow their practices. You must obey the laws and be careful to follow my decrees. I am the Lord your God. Keep my decrees and laws, for the person who obeys them will live by them. I am the Lord. Now you know that anytime this God, not quite Skybox, maybe the grovel part, I'll give you that. And I sound a bit like Aleister Crowley. But change it a bit. Maybe I'll take away from the Aleister Crowley version of it. But if we look at this, like the growl. Good morning, angelic. Anytime this deity starts out with the grand speech of how I am the Lord your God, and I brought you out of Egypt, and as the people, don't do as the people in Egypt, don't do it. You know there is a whole bunch of bullshittery that's about to occur. So, what is the bullshittery? Well, this deity felt it was necessary to talk about sex. Now, it's going to be very interesting. Some of the things that he's going to outlaw here in sex. Other people have said, well, it was okay initially during Genesis and Exodus because the world population was so low, so it was required. But by the time we get to Leviticus, the world population is large enough. Well, that doesn't necessarily work itself out. Let's just say, for all shits and giggles, that Khufu did build the Great Pyramids in Egypt, and then they were built around 2500 BCE. Well, in that time frame, there were already millions of people that were living in Egypt and the Levant. So during the time frame of Exodus, there was no need for some of the sexual things that they're now going to outlaw. And even prior to that, you would have had a massive buildup. When there was 500,000 people in that region, there was no need. That would mean during the time of Abraham, there was no need for these rules. So Abraham violated these rules. So that idea that they're going to say that, well, it was a different time, that only applies to like Adam, Eve, the first, Seth and all of them. And then you stop, but then you get to after there's fake flood that we discussed last week. a little bit of time, but then that goes away. So what are the bullshit rules? Starting in verse 6. Well, these rules are not bullshit. No, don't take it that way. These rules are not bullshit. These rules are just what am I trying to? They are too late to try to say that okay, now it's a change. These are great. Some of these rules are great. We yes. No one is to approach any close relative and to have sexual relations. I am the Lord. Do not disturb. Do not dishonor your father by having sexual relationship with your mother. She is your mother. Do not have relations with her. Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of disgusting, but I guess this was a problem in their time. That this guy felt the need that he had to say it, that you're not supposed to have sex with your mom. Do not have sexual relations with your father's wife. That would dishonor your father. Now, many people make jokes about this one, like, didn't you just say the mother? But you know that this is one of those things where I say polygamy is okay in this Bible, which I think polygamy is okay, period. But for all these Christians of today, because it's not okay within our culture, they try to make it seem like the Bible is saying that polygamy is wrong. But just in this rule here, how can a son have sexual relations with his mother's wife? I mean, with his father's wife, if the woman is not his mother, that would mean that the father has multiple wives. And he's saying, don't have sex with your stepmom. Old man, time is ticking. Yes, it does. Like every second, time ticks. Every second, it moves. British books. Time is ticking. Time is ticking for people to really understand how jacked up this book is. Do not have sexual relations with your sister. Well, I guess Abraham messed that part up since, Sarah was his sister. Either your father's daughter or your mother's daughter, whether she was born in the same home or elsewhere. So if it doesn't matter if a person, this is another example, you must have polygamy going on because your father's daughter and your mother's daughter. So that means that they can have different mothers. And then your stepsister, don't have sex with your stepsister. Do not have relationships with your son's daughter and your daughter's daughter, and that would dishonor you. So let's not do that either. Do not have sexual relationship with the daughter of your father's wife, born to your father. She is your sister, so your stepsister. You could have just said it in one line. Do not have sexual relations with your father's sister. She is your father's close relative. Do not have sexual relations with your mother's sister because she is your mother's sister. I mean, because she is your mother's close relative. So you can't bang your aunt. Aunties are not permissible. Do not dishonor your father's brother by approaching his wife to have sexual relations with your aunt. Do not have sexual relations with your daughter-in-law. She is your son's wife. Do not have relationships with her. And you remember we just went over how Tamar was the daughter-in-law and she was found to be more righteous since he had sex with her. Now, he didn't know who she was. He didn't. But he was sure hell going to kill her when she thought she was out there banging away and got pregnant. Well, I just lost my thought. Daughter-in-law right there. So do not have sexual relations with your brother's wife. That would dishonor your brother. Wouldn't want to do that anyway. Do not have sexual relations with both a woman and her daughter. So don't be double dipping. Do not now. Do they mean at the same time? Or like separate? Or is it completely both? Like off limits, completely total? What do they mean there? I'm just curious. All right, let's continue. Do not have sexual relations with either her son's daughters and her daughter's daughter. They are close relatives. That is wicked. Do not take your wife's sister as a rival wife and have sexual relations with her while your wife is living. Well, I guess Jacob just messed that all up since he was with Rachel and Leah, and both Rachel and Leah were sisters. Yeah, granted, he got tricked, but after he got Leah, he should have based on these rules. Once he got Leah, it should have just been like, oh well. And he was already wrong having, getting with the cousin anyway. But of course, it wasn't like he couldn't have gotten with somebody else. There was plenty of other people around. But in this instant, what we see is that he was wrong to take on Rachel as his wife once he had already had Leah as his wife. So there's no way you can slice this up and make it right. It's just completely wrong either way that you look at it. So anyway, do not approach a woman to have sexual relations during the uncleanliness of her monthly period. Now, of course, we've already saw where Rachel was sitting on the camel hiding her daddy's guards. And then she sit there and said, oh, I'm on my period. But we already had this information earlier that you're not even supposed to touch a woman while she's on her period. So it's kind of like we already know this. If you can't touch it, then you certainly can't have sex with it. And it said that in the previous one anyway. All right. Do not have sexual relations with your neighbor's wife and defile yourself with her. Adultery. That would not be a good thing, And do not give your children to sacrifice to Moloch. For you must not profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. That's just in all of this, it just throws that in there right in the middle, because then it goes right back and says, do not have sexual relations with a man as does with a woman, that is detestable. And do not have sexual relations with an animal and defile yourself with it. A woman must not present herself to an animal to have sexual relations with it. That is a perversion. All right. Like right in the middle of talking about a bunch of do not defile yourself with the sexual stuff, it throws in stop sacrificing babies to Molech. All right, but before we get into that one, did you notice something? Did anybody notice that they left out a type? Now they pretty much, let me stop with this British shit. They pretty much gave you every indication of incest or family sex. They gave you almost every version. But if you go back through this and track it, there's one version of family sex that they didn't preclude. Did anybody catch it? As I relight, did anybody catch it? That's how you know the Bible's for white folks. We ain't get we ain't had to be told that not to sleep with the animals. So didn't. Did anybody catch a type of sex pairing that they didn't say nothing about? I'm waiting to see if anybody caught it. I know y'all didn't catch it. I'm just waiting to see if just in case I'm wrong. In all of the, not your mother, not your stepmother, not your wife, not your aunties, not your first cousins, not your brother's wife, not another man, not an animal. It talked about every other variation except a father to his daughter. If you go back to, thank you. Jason caught it right there. Jason must have already been typing it before I got to it. So Jason is right. Jason found it. This book skips a father to the daughter. That just lets you know that this book, written by men for the benefit of men, that whichever joker, whichever scribe was writing this part. Now they talked about homosexuality, but there's a part of that they didn't say anything about, and I'm gonna get to that one. They talked about whoever the dude is, because it was a man who was writing this. he made sure that he precluded every version except a father banging his daughter. So, according to this book, if you are a father and you are having sex with your daughter, you are good to go because it is not listed here. Now, I'm not saying that any man should. I think that's disgusting, and you should be buried under a house and cemented over the house, and then the house set on fire. But this Bible lists every way relationship that you're not supposed to have sex, or every person you're not supposed to have sex with, but it skips and omits a father having sex with his daughter. I got a problem with that. How you gonna skip that? That's because whoever was writing this, he was probably already having sex with his daughters. That's probably why. Now, in the middle of all that, it just throws in for you not to give your children in sacrifice to Molech. What does that have to do? Now, if you think about it in the theme of what it's talking about, where the theme is people, all the different sexual partners that a person can have, and then all of a sudden sacrificing your children to Molech, we automatically think about child sacrifice, they killing the child, but are they also indicating, since the theme of all of this, and right after it, it goes into another sexual relationship, is the theme of sacrificing your children to Molech a child sex ring type of thing? That's what it makes me think it's describing. See, I'm not gonna go with how people just think, oh, you're just talking about boom, kill the child. No, this is a child ring that it's talking about. Grand Rising Jerry. And that, yes, you shouldn't do it to Molech, shouldn't do it to anybody. And then we get into one of the most politically charged comments that this thing had. And we was talking about sex with your mama, your daddy, your step parents, your brother, your sister, father and daughter, fine, but everybody else. But then this part, this is where many Christians who, it's funny, the majority of people who tout this out the most are the very ones who are doing this. It's like a pastor once told me, whatever you see a preacher preaching the most about is what he's struggling with, right? And then so take that in mind. In 22, do not have sexual relation with a man as one does with a woman. That is detestable. That is the one that they use to say that men should not, homosexual sex is wrong. Now, they throw the whole thing of homosexual sex in there. But let me tell you what's an out. It specifically says do not have sexual relation with a man as one does with a woman. That is detectable. Then they like to go to Romans 1:27, where it says something in the framework of do not lay with the man, you lay with a man as you would with a woman, usurping the natural use of a woman. It's another one that's against homosexuality. But in either case, it's only talking about a man having sex with another man. So women having sex with other women, it doesn't say that it's wrong. Now, of course, a Christian is going to say, well, you can't procreate. You can't procreate. So therefore, it falls under the same thing because sex is just for procreation. If you're a Christian and you think sex is just for procreation, you bored. I actually knew a couple when I was stationed in Germany, and that's what they literally believed. They literally believed that sex was only for procreation. So the only time they was having sex is when they was working to get their daughter. Once the daughter was born, of course, dude was like, "You about to have another one right after this little girl." Their child was special baby. They had that little girl right. She walked around witchcraft. What? That's it. I bet you nobody's never thought about that. Have you ever thought about it and realized the fact that they are saying that women can get away, that they're only talking about men. The only thing they say about a woman is that do not have sexual relations with an animal, defile yourself with it. A woman must not present herself to an animal and have sexual relations with it. It is a perversion. How does a woman present herself? I guess when she walks in front of the sheep, like, hey, baby, bye. Like, what's going on with the idea of that? Like, they had to add that extra that she present herself to an animal. But at least most of the time, they are massacring and killing animals. This time, they're sexually abusing the animals, and they're saying, hey, let's not sexually abuse the animal. All right. But interesting that they have all this. Now, a whole bunch of other rules they could have talked about, but that was it on those ones. So let's continue. Like I said, I got a hard stop at 12. So I want to get to a part where we can just talk freely as well. Do not defile yourself in any of these ways, because this is how the nations that I am going to drive out before you become defiled. Now, let's pause right there for a second. There was a person also who said to me this week that, and I did a video about it, how this guy doesn't ever tell people to go and commit genocide or tell people to go into warfare. But this whole part right here, he's saying, because this is how the nations that I am going to drive out before you becomes defiled. Well, these people didn't just leave and then the Israelites walked in. These people he's going to have them fight. Like Joshua will lead them into battle and be able to supposedly take this land. And they're going to fight many battles throughout this whole time frame that they're wandering for 40 years. But yet people claim this guy does not cause us to warfare. A bullshit. But he says, even the land was defiled. So I punished it for its sin, and the land vomited out its inhabitants. Two things about this one. Here, we're talking about the land was defiled. So I punished it for its sin. And he's talking about the land of those people, and he's going to give a whole bunch of reasons how you should grow crops and keep the land holy, the fruit trees, and we talk about fruit tree here in a minute. But this made me think, when I was reading this earlier, it made me go back to the whole thing with Cain and how he said that, not Cain, but Adam. And inside he kicked them out of the enclosure and told them that you're going to have to work in the land, toil the land is not going to produce fruits and all that kind of stuff, right? If this Bible was written, if it was written in the Amazon or sub-Saharan Africa, they would never be talking about this. That this is, I know we always focus on how things are culturally based, but in this instant, it reminded me that this Bible is also geographically based. All this cursing of the land is because they live in a desert climate. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Israel, but it's a desert, right? Israel is literally a desert, It's a damn desert. Hard to grow, hard to produce agriculture there. The whole region of Mesopotamia is a desert, which is one of the reasons why I did that video saying that civilization beginning in Mesopotamia is bullshit. It is not the most fertile place to begin civilization. And plus, we had evidence that civilizations were already in other places before that time frame, with like Adam's calendar and things of that nature. But this whole cursing of the land, all the land in this area is easily to talk about it being cursed simply because of the geography and the climate that they live in. So so to say that the land was punished and defiled is a common theme in this book, but they live in a freaking desert. Just think about that for a minute. So I punished it for its sin, and the land vomited out its inhabitants. It ain't vomited out nothing. People, they went and fought a war against those people, according to this book. But you must keep my decrees and my laws. Contradiction. The native born and the foreigners residing among you must not do any of these detestable things, for all these were done by the people who lived in the land before you, and the land became defiled. And if you defile the land, it will vomit you out. and as it vomited out the nations that were born here. My bad. I'm a little bit early on. I thought that was a different native born part. That's going to be in the next chapter. So excuse me for that one. But basically, either treat the land right, act right, follow my commandments, or I'm going to throw you out just like I'm throwing these people out. Everyone who does everyone who does these detestable things, such person must be cut off from their people. Keep my requirements and do not follow any of these detestable customs that were practiced before you came, and do not defile yourselves with them. I am the Lord your God. But that's 18. Look, 18. Y'all, most of those rules for do not, we can understand them today because we don't want to commit incest and that sort of thing. It creates genetic issues, and not having sex with your neighbor's, wife, your brother's wife. Hey, that's community issues. Understandable. Now we know people did not follow these rules. Noah's mother was also his great aunt. Not Noah, Moses' mother was also his great aunt. Abraham and Sarah were brother and sister. Jacob, all the 12 tribes of Israel, they a mixture of cousins and brothers, well, brothers and cousins and nephews and all kind of stuff that they were intermarrying with, because you got Jacob marrying his cousins, first cousins, Rachel and Leah, and then they're having babies. Those babies will be brother cousins, right? And then you got they having sex. We having babies with Bilhah, and we got the other slave wife name, concubine wife, brother cousins. That's going on. So you got incredible mixtures here of genetic material. Why Esau was over there saying, "Well, I'm just gonna get with a Canaanite woman. She ain't kin to me," but he was wrong. He's in the wrong for that because he's not keeping it in the bloodline. So at one point they're trying to say, no, no bloodline, no bloodline. But if you're important in this book, then it's all about you keeping the bloodline. And we see that same thing being continued even in our modern day world, because these people they like keeping it in the bloodline. Charles II, King of Spain, his daddy was also his granddaddy. I'm not your granddaddy, but you're his granddaddy. Here you go, look it up. But it's a common theme in all of this, in all these religions. Isis and Osiris were brother and sister. Jeb and Nut were brother and sister. Shu was a sister to Jeb as well. It is common for these deities to practice incest. Even though Enlil is the younger brother to Enki, the reason why Enlil was more important is because Enlil is the product of Anu and what is it? Anu and Titi? No, not Titi. I forgot Anu's wife's name, but Anu's wife was his sister, and that set it up so that Enlil would be the heir to the throne. Enki was from a concubine, so therefore he couldn't be the heir. So that's how he did it. Exactly, Skybox. The royal families still do that. That's why they don't like that Megan girl. Part of it because she of color. The other part is because that little girl, she ain't in that bloodline that they trying to maintain. So can't have it. You can't have that. But isn't it interesting? I mean, when I was going over this again this morning, and I was like, it's a relationship that I'm missing here. Like this today was the first time I realized it. Grand Rising Sharon, today was the first time I realized that it prohibits all versions of incest except for a father and his daughter. It's the only version of incest it doesn't stop. That version of incest is acceptable. according to this Bible. And if you are in the LGBTQ community, it only is saying that men with men is wrong. It does not say anything about women being with women. So y'all got an opportunity there. They have an out. Christian can't use that against them. Only thing they can use is procreation. That's it. But beyond that, it doesn't say it's an abomination. It doesn't say that it's profane. Now it talks about only women not sleeping with the animals. And let me say, well, it says do not in general with animals to thyself. A woman must not present herself to an animal. You can take that as they're only talking about women, but you can also look at it and say they talk about everybody. So, no bestiality, which is gross, but yeah. But this guy felt the need. And some people say it's not so much that the Israelites were doing it, but the other cultures were doing it. They didn't want the Israelites to fall into the weakness of those other cultures and be defiled. But there's actually it could be also talking about them themselves. So they go to 19. 19. All right. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the entire assembly of Israel and say to them, be holy, because I, the Lord your God, am holy. Each of you must respect your mother and father, and you must observe my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God. It's nice. Do not turn to idols or make metal gods for yourselves. I am the Lord your God. So it's reminding them, don't make the idols. It said this a while back, but it's telling one more time. But here's the thing, do not make idols. This is imagery. You go around, you see all these churches with statues and pictures and your Caesar Borgia Jesus and all of that. These are images. Many people, Christians try to step away and say, well, the thing about it is we don't worship the image. We don't worship, but you're saying that's a representation of your Jesus. When it told you not make any images of anything in heaven and earth, but it's graven images. No, it doesn't matter. It's just saying don't make them at all, but they consistently make them. I will give the Jewish Hebrew people credit. They don't have any of that in their spaces. When you sacrifice a fellowship offering to the Lord, I really wish that dude who told me that the Bible doesn't tell us to sacrifice, tell them to sacrifice, actually prohibits it. No, right there. When you sacrifice a fellowship offering to the Lord, sacrifice it in such a way that it will be accepted on your behalf. It shall be eaten on the day you sacrifice it, or on the next day. Anything left over until the third day must be burnt up. If it is eaten on the third day, it is impure and will not be accepted. Whoever eats it will be held responsible because they have desecrated what is holy to the Lord. They must be cut off from their people. Oh, I'm glad I'm not Christian because Angelina will be able to utilize this against me. Let me tell y'all what she did one time, y'all. We had a whole big old event at the cigar lounge, and she had them sliders that she made, and them sliders on point. So we come in the next day or so, we would clean up and everything, and she throw away the food leftovers. I'm like, what in the world you threw away them sliders? Me and Ghost almost had a fit because she threw them away. I'm that guy that I can eat a pot of spaghetti all week. A lasagna, I can eat that all week. Don't be throwing away the leftovers. But according to this dude, I got the fellowship offering. I gotta wait. If it's after 3 days, I can't eat it no more. He got problems here. That's just a personal thing for me. Throwing away the leftovers. But hey, according to them, don't eat it. But they're supposed to be making these sacrifices. All right, when you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edge of your fields, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Most people, when they hear gleanings, they go right to the roof story. Do not go over your vineyard a second time or pick up the grapes that have fallen. Leave them for the poor and the foreigners. I am the Lord your God. So even though it's going to tell you later that foreigners are to be treated like regular people, they always make sure that they make a distinction between them. They are very much into segregation here. But this is exactly, Skybox, it's a little bougie here. Oh, yeah. John, when you're out there in the vineyards, don't go to the edge. The edge receives too much pollution from those walker-by. Maybe some poor people may have touched the grape. And I have my wine crushed and taste, and it's been touched by those people. And going over the vineyard the second time, those grapes that have fallen to the ground. No. You see, in the fall, they slightly bruise themselves. And that bruising, when it goes into my wine, does not taste as fresh. It tastes bruised. We cannot have those. Leave those to the poor. Leave them to the poor. That's talking about Skybox. They're a little bougie. Right. Keep them broke folks away from me. I'm the Lord your God. You can eat lasagna for a week as long as there is no cottage cheese. Oh, if you put cottage cheese in lasagna, I'm going to read this verse. Thou shalt not put cottage cheese in the lasagna. It says it right there in the Bible. Because I'm reading it and I say so. Now, if you put cottage cheese in lasagna, I'm not eating it at all. I don't care who you. I don't know. That's disgusting. But the bougie God, as Skybox Kenny said, yeah, he's telling you don't leave the grapes that fell on the ground for the poor people. Leave the outer edges of the vineyard of the harvest for the poor people, and the foreigners. Poor people and foreigners. We don't like poor people. We don't like foreigners. That's basically sums up a political party in America. We don't like poor people. We don't like foreigners. And foreigners. But then they want the poor people to go vote for them. The poor, you say. Yeah. They're saying it. That's what they're saying, man. All right, so where we at? Where am I? That's the sacrifice. That's the poor people. Okay, so here's some reiteration here. Do not steal. Do not lie. Do not deceive one another. Do not swear falsely by my name and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. God damn it. I said God, G-O-T. But actually, profaning the name of God is actually to use God's name. Not when you say goddamn and all that kind of stuff, but to inappropriately verbalize the name of God, to which they don't know what the name of God is. Like the Jehovah Witness. No, his name's not Jehovah, Yahweh and all those, but it's to say it incorrectly. And they were so afraid of saying it incorrectly that, people don't say it, the tetragrammaton and all that stuff. But that's what it's actually meaning. It's not when you cursing it like, motherfucker, goddamn. That's not it. Do not, but that's what they told us, of course, growing up, because that's what they understood it. It says, Christians say, God take me as I am. God said, nah, not poor people. All right, where we at? Do not defraud or rob your neighbor. Do not hold back the wages of the hired workers overnight. Yeah, you ain't holding my money. Shit, better pay me. Do not curse the deaf or put stumbling blocks in front of the blind, but fear your God. I am the Lord. Hold up. I want y'all to imagine this in your mind. Imagine this in your mind. They had to write this because you ain't never heard that line anywhere else in this book, right? Right? We've read this whole book from front to back so far up to this point. I've never heard them say anything about do not curse the deaf or put stumbling blocks in front of the blind. What mean ass person was doing this? I'm saying, what? I mean, what, you walking behind a blind person? I mean, a deaf person, you like, that old deaf ass motherfucker. Oh, no hearing motherfucker. You know, like, you gotta say that's what people doing, or you putting stumbling blocks in front of a blind person. Y'all know who in here. Y'all know Jonathan can't see when he go into his, when he leave his house, before he come back. We're gonna move the furniture around his house so he be falling all over stuff. So, like, why do they need to put that in there? What mean motherfuckers out there? What mean persons out there doing that? That's cool. But they had to put it in there. But who made them blind? Who made them deaf? If God made people in every situation, who made them blind? Who made them deaf? And you're right, Jonathan. This Lord God doesn't like sinners, but he gets jealousy and angry, so he's a sinner himself. Right? He's racist. He's misogynistic, murderer, genocide, I always have a problem saying infanticide. And it's all part of his grand plan. So they had to be told, don't steal, don't lie, don't do all these other things. Don't wages overnight. Do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbors fairly. We know that doesn't happen. If the more money you got, the easier it is injustice for you. Do not go about spreading slander among your people. Do not do anything that endangers your neighbor's life. I am the Lord. Do not hate a fellow Israelite in your heart. Rebuke your neighbor frankly so that you will not share in their guilt. Right, well, he helped me find the car in my car keys. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if these people actually live by these rules? Like, this would be great if they did. Do not slander. All political debates will be non-debates. Since we're going into a political season here, a election cycle. But do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbors as yourself, for I am the Lord. If they actually did that, then how can you have slavery if you love your neighbor as you love yourself? How can you have the subjugation of women if you love your neighbor as you love yourself? You see how these don't match up? Like, this is contradictory to the other rules and the lifestyle that they have. So when people say there are no contradictions in the Bible, just simple things like that are a contradiction. Because to love your neighbor as you love yourself means that whatever you wouldn't want done to you, you wouldn't do to someone else, but yet they do these things to someone else in the name of God. You don't want to be conquered, so don't go conquer someone else. You don't want to be genocide, so don't go genocide someone else. But yet they go do it. And they do it based on this guy telling them to go do it. So it doesn't work out. Anyway, continue. Keep my degrees, damn it. Do not make different kinds of animals. Do not plant your fields with two kinds of seed. Here go the big one. Do not wear clothing woven of two kinds of material. I'm so glad that this is all whatever one material. I don't even know what the material is, but it's one material. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. But come on now. There are animals in the world today that if they weren't mating two different kinds, they wouldn't have them. I wonder what they mean by kind. Like, did they think that like a lion and a tiger were two different kinds? Is that what that means? Somebody help me on that one. Jonathan, stupid. Jonathan said all fabrics matter. AFM, AFM, all fabrics matter. All fabrics. So when they said two of every kind, that means two of every species, because a lion and a tiger are the same species. They're the cat family, large cat family, but you can make them jokers and you get that little half lion, half tiger thing. They're saying don't do that. Now, I'm gonna get down with don't plant your field with two kinds of seed. My father, at his house when he lived in Florida, when I came from Germany, stayed at his house, he had planted a orange tree and a lemon tree so close enough to each other that they combined into one tree. And hey, Denise X. So the orange tree and the lemon tree combined into one tree. And when I tell you that was the nastiest fruit that man that I ever. You ever had a sour orange, a lemony sour orange? That's what the fruit that these that produce that. But don't wear two types of clothing now. Ooh, don't wear clothes woven with two kinds of material. I mean, whatever about slavery. I give you rules for that. Whatever about animal sacrifice. We're gonna kill some animals, we're gonna have some slaves, we're gonna have some baby sacrificing, we're gonna have a little bit of human sacrifice thrown in here and there. We're gonna genocide the shit out of people. But don't be mixing that Lenny, y'all. Now, y'all ready for something really messed up? Y'all ready for something really messed up? Let me see what you say right there, Jonathan, before I read what's messed up. These people thought that the world was flat, but they want the monopoly on history and the science. Pray for me, brother. I'm wearing polyester and cotton. I think this is. Yes, that's what this is. This is all polyester. I'm good. You go to hell, Jonathan. I'm gonna have to cut you off from the community. All right, this is messed up. Hear me out. If a man sleeps with a female slave who is first of all, the fact that you got slaves, that's already a problem. But if a man sleeps with a female slave who is promised to another man, but who has not been ransomed or given her freedom, there must be due punishment. Yet they are not to be put to death because she had not been freed. The man, however, must bring a ram to the entrance of the tent of meetings for a guilt offering to the Lord. With the ram of the guilt offering, the priest is to make atonement for him before the Lord for the sin he has committed, and the sin will be forgiven. Y'all understand that? Been going through Genesis with your daughter. She is mortified. I can understand why. Did y'all get that? I want to give y'all a little moment to let that sink in. I'm gonna paint the picture. So Jonathan has a female slave. Jonathan has promised that female slave to Skybox. But I come in and sexually assault this slave and have sex with her. So now Skybox don't want her because she's been defiled. The owner now has a slave who's been defiled. So now I gotta take a ram to the tent of meetings to be forgiven for the sin, and also I gotta take on the slave girl, this woman as my wife now. You see how that's the rule here. And then the man will be forgiven. So the ram got to die. The woman had to go through trauma. And all the man had to do was just go around and I can go grab it and get it. And now it's mine to get forever. You had they're going, I'm gonna raise a herd of rams just for that purpose. To go get it. So how about this guy just has said, first of all, no woman is a slave. No woman can be a slave. There are no slaves. Second, if you violate a woman, you death. No second chances. And definitely don't make the woman have to keep being with this man. Let's continue. Because now, God is an agriculturist. When you enter the land and plant any kind of fruit tree, regard its fruit as forbidden. For 3 years, you are to consider it forbidden. It must not be eaten. In the 4th year, all its fruit will be holy, an offering to praise the Lord. But in the 5th year, you may eat its fruits, and in this way, your harvest will increase. I am the Lord your God. What in the 3 letters of hell? So if you want to be a fruit farmer, you got to wait 5 years before you can make some money off of it. 5 years before you can eat it. And 1 year, your 4th year, it is all to be given to the Lord. Now, I've actually read a book where this guy was trying to is a Christian book on how to do business as a Christian. He quoted this chapter, right? And he was saying that for the first 3 years of business, you've got to be set up where the first 3 years of business, you are to not take any profits for yourself. Then your 4th year, you are to give all the money away to God, to the church, every dime you make. And if you do that in the 5th year, God is going to bless your business. It's going to be great. All right. First thing about business and that, when that dude said that, I've been waiting on this verse right here because it irked the shit out of me when I read it and when I saw the dude trying to teach it in a business program that I had created for a church, and I was like, what the fuck? You teaching that? Most people do not start a business with 4 years of working capital that they don't need to pay themselves. Mm-mm. Most people don't. Most people need to take a little bit of money from that business. Year 1. Most people start a business underfunded and need to take money from that business day 1. But you shouldn't start a business if you need to take money from it day 1. No. Now, some people do start a business and they work another job and they can let the business grow, but not for 4 or 5 years. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Now, if you could, that's great. If you have it where you can have another gig and do that, that's fine. But most people, no, it's not gonna happen. But this guy was writing his book, but he's writing his book. That's not how he built his business, because he's trying to tell people, yeah, I did this other business that way, and it was very successful. But what he didn't tell people is that he had already created another business that was successful. And that's why he was able to leave this other business alone and donate the 4th year of profit to the church. I'm telling y'all right now, you go join my business page and you come to me with that bullshit, I'm gonna be like, hey, I can't coach you. You're uncoachable. You're stupid. You got some dumb shit. Let me continue. Because I gotta stop at noon. Hours increase. Yeah. Isn't it most first time businesses will fail within the first year? Really, it's most first time business fail within the first 3 years. Um, it's like 90% fail within the first 3 to 5. Was actually 3 to 5 years. Most of them fail. Then after after the 3 to 5 years, another 70% fail in the next. Are the ones that's left over. 70% of them fail within the next 5 years. So literally, you got like a 1%, like a less than 1% chance of a business being successful past 10 years. And successful means that it's beyond a mom and pop. Like if you open a business, you still have it, and it's 10 years later, 20 years later, but you got to go there and run it every day. That's not considered a successful business. That is, you just created a job for yourself or a career for yourself. You're a mom and pop organization if you still got to run it like that. All right, there we go. All right. So let's get some more rules. Do not eat any meat with blood still in it. If you know we've been doing this, then you know that I'm going to say that is an impossibility to get all the blood out of any kind of meat. You're either going to char the blood into the meat, or there's still going to be some blood in that meat no matter how you do it. But these people didn't understand biology. They thought if it didn't look pink or something like that, and you squeeze it all until the blood stopped coming out, then there ain't no blood in it. But yeah, still eating that chicken. It got a vein in it. You eating some blood. All right. Do not practice divination or seek omens. Yet Christians are out there. Oh, they saging and they talking about, girl, what's your sign? I'm a Libra, so that means this. I'm a Capricorn, so that means that. So they still doing these things. Yet they will say that the Old Testament stuff don't matter. They can, and they that's why the Old Testament stuff don't matter. But yet, will claim another person is doing witchcraft when they doing tarot. Mm. I want Christians to still do this one. Do not cut the hair on the sides of your head or clip off the edges of your beard. Even a lot of Jewish people don't do this one. Do not cut your bodies. Do not cut your bodies for the dead or put tattoo marks on yourself. I am the Lord. A whole lot of Christians. Do not degrade your daughters by making her a prostitute, or the land will turn to prostitution and be filled with wickedness. I hope that that wasn't a major problem that they were having during that time frame where they were turning their daughters into prostitutes. Observe my Sabbath and have reverence for my sanctuary. I am the Lord. We just talked about Sabbath on another video last week. Really, nobody knows when the Sabbath is. Like, even these people who worship this, their calendar was based on the Babylonian calendar of 7 days. The Hermetic calendar was a 10-day calendar. So it couldn't have been them coming out of these. This is supposed to be the time they're coming out of Egypt. Egypt had a 10-day calendar. How would they even know what the Sabbath day was? That's because this is written in 500, 530 during the Babylonian captivity. So they were going based on what the Babylonian tradition was, which the Sabbath was a worship of Saturn on that Friday night to Saturday morning. So, yeah, they don't even know when the Sabbath is. It's made up. Do not turn to mediums or seek out spirits, for you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. When we going in Genesis where people was, I don't remember exactly where, but there were parts in Genesis stuff where people was casting lots and reading omens and doing all kinds of stuff like that. What was it? Jacob did the magic trick with the goats, having them have sex in front of some striped wood. But we ain't supposed to be doing witchcraft. But they doing it. Stand up in the presence of the aged, show respect for elders, and revere your God. I am the Lord your God. So stand up. That's a weird thing to throw in there. Elders come in. That's just men want to be respected. Here's the part about foreigners. That's contradictory to, I think, Leviticus 25. When a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Hold on for a second. Let me scoot up. So it's telling them that the foreigners who are treat the foreigners as if they're native born. But yet, later on, it's going to say you can take slaves of those foreigners and keep them in perpetuity. But of your native born, you are supposed to release them after 7 years. So which is it? Do you treat them like native born? Or are they truly foreigners that you can keep in perpetuity in your slavery? You see, this demonstrates that different people are writing this book with different agendas because that shit doesn't work. It doesn't pan out. You can't treat them like yourselves and then treat them as foreigners at the same time. And why does he have to keep reminding people that he was the Lord? Because he's insecure. This is an insecure, narcissistic guy. You gotta keep telling them. And let me finish this chapter off. Do not use dishonest standards when measuring weights. Weigh, measuring length, weight, or quantity. Use honest scales and honest weights, an honest ephah and an honest hin. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. Keep all my decrees and all my laws and follow them. I am the Lord. Just because I know you might need a couple more I am the Lord's in there, Denise. But yeah, he does have to keep reminding him that he is the Lord their God because he is insecure and he's like a little child and he's narcissistic. But I need some more lighting. I need some more lighting in here. I wonder. I'm gonna test something real quick. But this deity has to have all of that stuff going on. Nope, that was worse. I know what I'll do next time. We know that this deity is insecure. It's a narcissistic little punk. He'll pay up, and he needs that kind of instructions. He needs that kind of reassurance, I should say. So he has to keep telling people, "I'm the Lord your God. I'm the Lord your God." Now, other people are around and they worship different gods. Now, at this time frame, the world was more henotheistic, where people respected each other's gods and believed that their gods existed. Like the Hebrew people only worshiped their God, but they believed that the God of the Babylonians existed. Why did you show up on my feed? I have no idea. I don't own Facebook. I don't know how Facebook algorithms exactly work, but you can scroll by. Just keep scrolling. Don't worry about Trisman. Trismegistus. People are like, why do you keep showing up on my? Stop showing up on my Facebook page. Oh yes, I own Facebook. I control the algorithm. These people. Anyway, damn, made me lose my train of thought. Oh my God. Grand Rising Dawn, how you doing? So it's 11:18. I do have a hard stop at 12 noon. So we can talk about anything now. Any subject matter that you guys want to talk about is up for grabs. Henotheistic. So even though they would have believed that Marduk was a real god, was the god of the um, Babylonians or Enlil or Enki or the Yahweh version to the Canaanite. So the Canaanite Yahweh was a Canaanite god that then they adopted for themselves. The Greek gods, when first the Persians came in, so and Darius was a worship Zoroaster, was a Zoroastrians rather. So they would have believed that Ahura Mazda and Agramenia, that those existed. And then when the Greeks came in, they would have believed that, we worship our God, but your gods existed. Same thing when the Romans came in. This is our God, but your gods do exist as well. It's not until um, it's not until we get into the 382 when Rome is declared a Christian empire that we get there is only one God, and we are not gonna. Nobody else's God matters. Yeah. So that's how these people's minds were. So this guy had to keep reminding them, I'm your God now, I'm your God. I got your back. I brought you out of Egypt. Remember that? Remember that? Remember that? I brought you out of Egypt. Remember how I killed all them people? And I did all them boils. I killed all them babies. And I turned all that water into blood, which would have killed a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of animals. I did all that. I brought the flies, I brought the frogs. All that was me, just for you. Remember how I told you to go tell your women to tell the Egyptian women to give you some gold and stuff, and they gave you all the gold, and y'all looted them, and now y'all got all this gold. I did that. I did that. So this deity has to keep reminding these people, um, because they have the ability, the option of multiple gods all over the place. And it was easy for people to just transfer over. You transfer. You know what? Canaanites over there, they worship Yahweh. Hell, I worship Yahweh. I'm gonna go over there. They Yahweh is over there giving them some good bounties. So I'm gonna go worship that Yahweh. Plus, they Yahweh got a wife. Our Yahweh, they got rid of his wife. Mm-hmm. And all of them had their own origin story, but their origin stories only pertain to them. That's one thing that we're missing out in understanding these stories. Everybody's origin story only pertains to their group of people, right? So the Sumerian origin story pertained to the Sumerians. The Kemetic origin story pertained to the Kemetic, and so on and so forth. So this story, this book, this Bible story, is only pertaining to their people. It doesn't pertain to anyone outside of their people. Even though it says go preach this to the Gentiles and all that. That's why that's a New Testament, because it's different. But it was only for those people. So when I go and look at my ancestry, this book ain't for me. That's enough right there. Yeah. In churches today, they still talk about their God is the one and only true God, that his love is the only love. Complete, and then get mad when I come on here and talk about their deity. Like, wait a minute. You are disrespectful to everybody else's God. You're saying that Allah doesn't exist. You're saying that Brahma don't exist. So you disrespectful too. I'm just telling you that you are. But I got a question for those who was on here the whole time, for those who was however long you was on here. Um, which part of these two chapters struck you the most as odd, or you found interesting, or that sticks out to you? Was it the fact that in all the descriptions of incest that you ain't supposed to have, the one they excluded was a father to his daughter? Was it that there's an exclusion that allows for, it only talks about homosexuality between men, but not between women? That if you take a slave girl and take her poom poom, all you gotta do is pay a ram goat, and then she gotta marry you. Like, what's most disturbing about these two chapters to you? For me, it's the father daughter thing, that they excluded father daughter. That's the one for me. And I want you, a lot of those people who go out there and they're like, you sinners, you LGBTQ sinners, because in Leviticus it says such and such and such. They obviously never read the above portion because you ain't seen them run around saying anything about fathers and daughters getting it. That's giving me. But it ain't just me. That's what the book says, or in this case, does not say. It says nothing about that, which I find that's one of those things like how this book should be against slavery. It should be against that too. Or another thing that sticks out: the contradiction of, hey, treat the foreigners equally. Treat them as one of your own, native born. Then later on, take the motherfuckers as slaves forever and pass them down to your sons. Yes, the father-daughter thing is sick. I agree. See, this is why. Let me tell you. Somebody who follows me, they've been talking to me. I can't remember their name because I get messages from a bunch of people every day, and they want me to come and debate a Hebrew Israelite guy. I was like, you sure? Are you sure? Because I'm sure it's gonna bring that chapter up. That you do realize it omits and says that it omits a father and daughter being sexual with each other, which ipso facto, fathers and daughters having sex is okay in your book. You know, I'm not sure they want me to do that, or the whole contradictions between the foreigners and then how the foreigners are treated. And then because they are very anti-white, like anti-Caucasian, I'm like, hold on, bro. But according to your book, you're supposed to treat foreigners as you would treat native born. So you can't treat the white man that way. So I'm not sure people want to do that. This is why I don't debate. I don't think some of these people realize what they're getting into. But while y'all are mulling over and contemplating what y'all thought was most shocking on there, I do want to let you guys know that now that I have free time on Tuesday nights, special Google class using the hermetics to open your chakras so that you can gain control over your mind and your emotions so that you can raise your consciousness but have your heaven on earth right now and not have to wait. That class starts, the first one starts next Tuesday. Every class is themed, seven classes in rotation, going to each chakra, filled with the hermetics, 2 hours, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only $29.97. You can go over to CoachRenz.com and sign up. And we're gonna, I'm time for me to get deeper into changing some lives. Time to get deeper, changing lives. So you guys are more than welcome to go join that. Really appreciate it. As since now I'm working from home. Such a relief to be home. Such a relief. How's everybody weekend go? Let's get that in there. How was your weekend? Because y'all gonna talk to me. Just sitting there. There's about 40 people on here. But yeah, I know some of y'all are at work, some of y'all can't type, some of y'all have issues. Most shocking is the forgiveness of violating a woman with a ram. Plus, I learned today that lesbianism isn't a sin. Thank you. Oh my goodness. And see, that violation of a woman and then you pay on ram, that's a slave woman. See, there's the distinction. That's a slave woman. Now, if it was just a woman who wasn't a slave, but she's not betrothed to a man, then you just have to pay 50 pieces of silver. So they got all these different scenarios for different situations, you know? Yeah. But yeah, just a ram. Hey, bring a ram. And notice the ram doesn't go to the father to the slave owner, the ram goes to the tent of meetings, and the priests get the ram, not the slave owner. But he does have to. It doesn't specifically say it in there, but he does somewhat. I'm assuming he has to pay that dude for the slave. Because we're talking about the ransom hadn't been paid yet from whoever was supposed to come and get her. So I'm imagining he has to pay that ransom and give the goat. So the priest got to get his part. The church always got to get their part. Let me make sure what's it, but I'm quite positive that it is only paid to the message was promised to the man who has not been ransomed and paid for or given her freedom. She's still there. There must be due punishment. And this is all just about punishment. He's not put to death because she hadn't been free. Now, if a man were to have sex with a free woman, and that's why I said because she has not been free, because and later on in Leviticus, if a man has a sex with a free woman, then there are instances where he'll be put to death if she is betrothed to another man. If she's betrothed to another man, then he must be put to death in either case, whether she screams or not. She is put to death depending upon whether she screams or if it happens in the city. If it happens outside the city, she's not put to death. If it happens inside the city, but she does not scream, then she is to be put to death as well. But in both cases, put to death, that's only because she's married to another man, because you're defiling his property. Now, if she is not betrothed to another man, then he has to pay the father 50 pieces of silver, and then he has to marry that girl. So basically, if you have a man who has a daughter, and okay, color purple, old boy Mister comes up and wants to marry, he wants Natty. According to this book, he wants Natty. Now he accepts Celie, but if he truly wanted Natty, and it was going according to their customs, to the Bible, all he had to do, since Natty hadn't been promised to anybody, was to rape Natty, and then Natty would have to, then he would pay Mister $50, and then pay the man $50, they stepdaddy $50, and then Natty would have became his wife. See how that works? That's that bullshit. That is all the bullshit because of whether or not she's freed or not, slave or not, in the city, outside the city, promised to a man already, not promised to a man already. You got all these different things, but he's not put to death in this because she's only a slave. So a slave life is not worthy of a free man's life. Come on, man. And then the ram is brought to the priest to make atonement, and then his sin is forgiven. And all actuality, he didn't got to marry this woman. If you got 12 rams, you can okay, I can go and assault 12 slaves a year, once a month. Well, it was on the lunar cycle, so 13 rams. I'm good every month. Every lunar cycle, every full moon, that's what I'm gonna be. Yeah, I'm gonna be the sex wolf. Not a werewolf, but a sex wolf. But the fact that this book condones slavery, rules for slavery, that in itself is enough reason to walk away from this religion. I can't do it. Cannot do it. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we sign off today? Like I said, I got a meeting at 12:30 that I have to be at. I might come back on when I get back, depends on how long it lasts, if they're on time, rather. If they're on time, it won't last long at all. Then I'll be back here by 1:15 or something like that. Um, Actually, these other people need to finish up their stuff too. So we'll see. But I do want to get over there a little bit early. A few other things I got to take care of over on that side of town. Well, over there. So I do appreciate you guys. I look forward to tomorrow. I'm going to shoot some more videos today. I'm about to get off, Mimi. What the heck? I don't know what. Oh Lord, I wrote a whole. That's a. Oh, you hadn't been on here, and you just. This looks like a big copy paste thing. Okay, I'm not reading all that. So y'all have a great day. We will talk later. We might do another live later on today, um, or this evening, or whatever. So I'll see you guys later today. If not, I'll give me more videos that'll be shout out today. There'll be more videos put out today as well. I'm really going to be able to up my game now since I'm here. So y'all have a great day. Remember, always you got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations, and we are out.